Hi, I'm Spencer Campbell of Gila RPGs, and this is another how to play video for RUNE. RUNE is an in-development solo Souls-like RPG that I'm working on right now, and this is one of a series of videos where I am talking about how the game is played. This is another one of the advanced rules videos that are going on. Previous videos showed you things like how to play the game with the basics, walking through the tutorial scenarios that you see in the playtest materials. This video is here to show you how you can expand your playtest experience by playing around with some of the new weapons, the new gear, things like that, that aren't shown off in the tutorial, but are important parts about how RUNE works in the combat of RUNE. Specifically, this video is here to show you how two-handed weapons work. Two-handed weapons are a special type of weapon, a special type of gear that the player can use in RUNE. Two-handed weapons are kind of dual card weapons. So every piece of gear in RUNE is represented by a card. You see the document in the playtest materials that has all the cards for all of the gear. Two-handed weapons have two cards for them because they have one card for the one-handed version of the weapon and then another card for when you are in two-handed mode. This immediately lets you know that these are weapons that you can actually change the stance that you are in. Stance is the word that's used to decide sort of like which mode you're using the weapon in. When you're in one-handed stance, that means you can use that weapon alongside another weapon. So for example, if we were using Drake's Talon here, some sort of big sword, like a big dragon fang sword or something like that, in one-handed stance, I could use this alongside a shield, a spell in my hand. I could have another sword in my other hand. Because it's one-handed, I can have two things in my hands, and so I can wield this and something else. And you can see that Drake's Talon works very similar to how any other weapon would work. It has values that you assign dice to, up to 6, and it functions exactly like another weapon. But at the start of any round, you can switch the stance that you are in with a two-handed weapon to the two-handed mode. If I did this, if I said, okay, actually, I want to kind of bump it up with Drake's Talon, I'm going to go into two-handed mode. When I do that, I stow away my other weapon, which doesn't mean it gets discarded or lost for the fight. It just means I can't use it this round because I can't hold the Drake's Talon in two hands and my shield at the same time. So I kind of put my shield on my back and I'm ready for Drake's Talon. When we are in two-handed stance mode, you can see that the required values for our weapons changes a little bit. First of all, they generally are higher. This is letting you know that you're going to probably need to use the summing rule for gear in order to use this stuff. As a reminder, for any piece of gear, you can sum two stamina dice together to get a new value and assign both of those dice to make a singular outcome for that piece of gear. So right away, the minimum value for a die we need in order to use two-handed Drake's Talon is a 5. That's pretty high. You'll see that there's a 5 and a 6 that do pretty big harm. There's a 7 here, which already lets us know, okay, we need to sum up beyond our normal 6-sided die to do a lot of harm. And then 8 plus lets us know that if you sum together two dice to get an 8 or any value higher than 8, you can always do this. This plus is a new version of how weapons work that you don't see with the one-handed weapons. This gives you a bit of flexibility and freedom with the two-handed weapons where you don't have to roll exactly a value of 8. It could be 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, right? That's what you can do with a two-handed or with 2d6. So Drake's Talon says, yeah, a lot of the time you're going to move 1, deal 4 harm, and cleave. Sometimes you might not get lucky. You might do one of these things instead. So these two-handed weapons, they give you a sense of flexibility in terms of which mode you're in. At the start of the next round, let's say I had a really good time with my two-handed Drake's Talon, but I kind of got beat up and I want to use my shield again. I just switch my stance back to one-handed mode, and I'm back to these options available to me and my other weapon, whatever it might be. The other thing to note about these two-handed weapons is oftentimes there's pretty different effects between them. So Drake's Talon in one-handed mode has some blocking involved in it, right? It seems to be some sort of sword that can block damage and deal damage at the same time. It also provides some movement on 4s, 5s, and 6s, so half the time I can move. But with Drake's Talon, when you go into two-handed mode, it loses that blocking. It's now all about being on the attack. In fact, it gains the deadly cleave keyword, which allows me to hit multiple enemies at one time. and really reduces the likelihood that I'm going to have any kind of movement while I'm wielding it in two-handed mode. So when you're in these when you're using these two-handed weapons, you have to think, which mode do I want to be in? Which stance do I want to be in? And when is the right time to switch between them? This adds a new level of complexity, a new level of sort of puzzle solving that you can do as a player, and hopefully starts to create new opportunities for builds, especially as you start to combine these weapons with their one-handed weapon counterpart that go with it, and the utility gear that starts to enhance the way that you interact with certain mechanics in combat. So that's another how to play video for RUNE. If you enjoyed this, if you want to try out RUNE and you haven't gotten access to the playtest materials yet, the website for RUNE is in the description below, where you can find all of the playtest material. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed the other videos. And I look forward to hearing what you think about RUNE. Bye!